Would I be a jerk if I didn't go to my brother's wedding because he wants me to act straight? I have a twin brother who's getting married in July. I also have a fiancée who I'm getting married to in October. The family of my brother's future wife is of a different culture and religion, and they come from a country where homosexuality is illegal. She's alright, but her parents are extremely bigoted. So in order to avoid any uncomfortable incidents, my brother has asked me if I could act straight on their wedding day. I'm not super flamboyant or anything, but I like showing affection to my boyfriend whenever I feel like it, including in public. And since I'm the best man, I'd be in the spotlight a lot, so they would probably notice it. Since it came out of nowhere and he caught me unprepared, I said I would do it. But the more I think about it and talk to my boyfriend about it, the less I want to. I saw my family over the weekend and talked to my brother and said I didn't feel comfortable pretending. There will be friends and family at the reception who know I'm gay and who have met my boyfriend, and I think it would feel humiliating acting straight in front of them. Besides, what if I slip up and call my boyfriend my boyfriend within earshot, or if I do something automatic like put my arm around him? My brother seemed a bit hurt, but my parents and sisters made a huge deal out of it. They think I'm being difficult and that I should at least try to make my brother's wedding day go without any incidents. They're saying that it's just that one day and that I would survive not showing affection to my boyfriend for a few hours. They said I have it easy because I only really had to see them that one day, but my brother is marrying into that family. In the end, I said that if I have to do this, I'd rather not come at all. Since then, I've gotten dozens of messages from all of them, asking me to change my mind and trying to convince me it's not such a big deal, but also calling me selfish and a bad brother. My parents have been reserved with insults, but my sisters have both called me a jerk. I have no idea what the right thing to do is anymore. I feel extremely bad and guilty about all of it. He is my twin brother, my best man, the one person I've always been closest to. He has always been there when I needed him, and I feel horrible about not doing this for him. But I can't help but think what happens in October when I get married. Does he plan on hiding that from his in-laws too? And what if they have children? Will I have to pretend my future husband is my totally straight bro friend every time we see our nephew or niece and the in-laws are there? But then again, it's his wedding day and I, his twin brother and best man, am going to miss it, and it feels wrong. I can really see where your brother is coming from here. It would be incredibly selfish of you not to go. You had to put him first on his wedding day, and just let it be for one day. After your brother's wedding, you should have a talk with your brother, and let him know that you'd like to come out to his in-laws' family before your wedding in August. I'm sure this way, even if they are shocked by your announcement, at least they aren't finding out in public at their daughter's wedding. I almost had to shoot someone on my first Tinder date. I was 21, recently became a police officer, and was also recently dumped. So my friend suggested Tinder. As a 21-year-old and a new cop, I had the I'm invincible and I can take on anyone mentality. I matched with a very good-looking, out-of-my-league female. We chatted and eventually set up a date to meet. She said she had a great open field to look at stars and hang out, and we could meet up at her house. So the night came. I was excited and she seemed to be excited when I picked her up. She guided me to the field and it looked nice. Open space, woods, deer, and other wildlife. In the field, I noticed really dim headlights in the distance. Then, the van started driving towards us and pulled up in front of us, almost close enough to block me from going forward. I told her to stay in the car and I'll go say hi. I grabbed my flashlight I had in the car and walked up. In the front driver's seat of the van, there was a decently sized man. I asked him what's going on and if he could back his car up a little bit. He was very polite, said he was the owner of the property and said he didn't mean to scare us. He told me he's been having trouble with poachers on his property and just wanted to make sure we weren't going to be shooting at anything. I assured him we only came out to look at some stars and wildlife. He was perfectly okay with that, told me to have a nice date, and drove away. After that, the girl was texting non-stop. Around an hour later, I saw headlights coming towards us again, this time at a really fast pace. We hopped in the car and I moved it to a more defensive position. The same man came close enough to almost hit my car. She hopped out of the car at that point and ran towards the guy. I immediately knew I was doomed. I got out and gave them commands to back up and get on the ground. Neither of them complied. Obviously, he then proceeded to charge me and knock me to the ground. Luckily, I was able to get him on his back and get up. I saw my date grab a metal pipe from the van. She told me they had a gun and to give them my money and truck and I won't get hurt. Of course, with my I'm invincible mentality, I said no. She started to cry and say they didn't want to hurt me. He then started to go back towards the car. At that point, I told them I was a cop, drew my concealed firearm, and to lay on the ground. After a moment of shock from all of us, they complied. I was able to call 911, tell them my name and badge number. I had two at gunpoint, and needed backup immediately. I gave our dispatcher the best directions I could to this field. While on the phone, they both fled. Again, stupid new cop, young guy mentality. I chased them. I took off after the man, who ran into the woods around the field. I chased him for maybe 30 seconds and heard 3 loud pops and saw a muzzle flash. My I'm invincible mentality went right out the window. I ran like hell back towards my car and peeled the hell out of there. I went back to the area I picked her up in, called dispatch again, and had officers come to that location. Of course, the first officers to pull up was my sergeant and my field training officer. They were both completely understanding and didn't give me any stick for it. At all. The most used were dumbass and stupid bloody rookie. I hopped in their car and went towards the field. Luckily, the van was still there. I was told to shut my mouth and only come out if they start getting shot at. They cleared the area and started looking in the van. They found meth right on the center console and searched the car. What scared me most was when my field training officer and sergeant came back to the patrol car, let me out, and told me to come look in the back of the van. Both of them were pale, looked horrified. I went to the back of the van, where there were several knives, duct tape, lighter fluid, a decent amount of rifle ammunition, handcuffs, and what looked to be dried blood. In the front seat passenger side, we found an AR rifle and 2 more handguns. We called for immediate backup and detectives. When they investigated the blood, it turned out it wasn't blood. The plates had been stolen and the van was reported stolen. I still get shit about the whole encounter, but luckily no one got hurt. I will never use online dating again. Ever. A good one to tell your kids someday. I've always told my daughter to be careful who she meets online, but this story really drives it home. I'm glad that you are okay and no one was hurt. If you ever get into a situation like that again, do what your sergeant said. Run. Don't worry about trying to be the hero. Just get out of there. You have an elite mindset to be a great cop, but you must learn to know where you have to draw the line. Entitled family attempts to dognap my sister's service dog. I'll be using the same false names for my sister, Amy, who is 17, and Lisa, who is 8. I'm their older brother, 29-year-old male, and this all takes place in Australia. Now, I do my best to get Amy outside for at least an hour a day, and this normally involves taking her service dog for a leisure walk as a family, which she enjoys and is accustomed to at this point. On this particular day, a new playground had just opened up nearby, so I thought it might be fun to take my girl somewhere different, and as Amy likes to play fetch with Lickety Split, her service dog, whom is a cross between a purebred German Shepherd and a mutt, mixture of several different breeds. This one specifically bred with calmer, easy-to-train temperaments. I made sure to look into the rules regarding off-lead dogs. As a service dog, she's allowed pretty much everywhere if she has a lead and vest on, and isn't disturbing the peace. There was a nearby field where off-lead dogs were permitted, but the area around the playground only allows on-lead dogs, which is normally for my area. So, armed with doggy doo-doo bags, sunscreen, water, and Lickety Split's vest and lead, we drive down to the new park. New areas do make Amy anxious, so we walk around a bit to help her get an understanding of where everything is, and during this time, Lickety Split has her vest and lead on, dutifully walking at Amy's pace like the best doggo she is. As there are quite a few little kids around and we don't want them distracting her, but most seem to understand what Lickety Split's vest means. However, one kid in particular, whom we'll dub Leg, little entitled girl, does approach and asks to play with Lickety Split. Amy has selective autism. She can't talk in most situations. I take the duty to explain that Lickety Split is working right now and can't be distracted, but I point to the field and say we might be playing there later if Amy feels up to it. She normally doesn't mind other people throwing the ball as long as they don't actually touch Lickety Split or her. Leg huffs and says that dogs are for playing, not working. I ask her if she's ever seen police dogs on TV or anything, to which she hesitantly replies yes, and I explain those are a different type of working dog. Lickety Split's job is to take care of my sister because she gets frightened very easy and our dog makes sure she doesn't get hurt if she gets scared. The Leg then turns to Amy, who is getting a bit fidgety and keeps tugging on my shirt, her silent signal that she wants to move away from this. While Lickety Split is in her alert stance, when she has a feeling something around could trigger Amy or cause her harm. The Leg then throws her arms up and shouts, "Boo!" which of course causes her to jump and hide behind me, starting to cry. Amy, even to this day, is very timid and doesn't cope well in strange environments with loud noises and sudden movements towards her. The Leg starts laughing and calls Amy retarded. Lisa, who is very protective of her big sister, then pushes the girl and scolds her for being mean, and I decide we've all had enough of this girl and hurry my sisters along so we can find somewhere for Amy to calm down in peace. We find an area out of sight from Leg, and I sit Amy down on a bench in the shade where I can work towards calming her down before deciding if we should just go home. Thankfully, she wasn't too bad as far as her anxiety attacks go, just breathing heavily, hot, and she was crying quietly. I asked her if she wanted to go home, but she declined and asked we just stay away from Leg, because Lisa still wanted to play in the playground and said she didn't want Lickety Split off her lead. I'm hesitant, but agree knowing that because Amy is trying to overcome her anxiety, she does sometimes want to push herself out of her comfort zone, and I would just have to keep a close eye on her and make sure she isn't pushing herself too far. The next little while is quiet. Lisa playing in the playground while Amy and I sit in the shade with Lickety Split laying beneath the bench and Amy reading a book. As you'd expect, more kids came to ask to give pats to our dog, but I politely turned them away with no issues. No Leg. Or so I thought. Leg comes running up to Amy and me with her mother in tow, jabbing her finger at me while blabbering about animal abuse. Now, most of my attention was on my sister rather than what this lady was saying, so the conversation isn't exactly word for word. This also took place months ago. The mother looks me up and down as if I had no business being in the area. My suburb is the next one over and considered slightly higher class, and asks if Lickety Split is my dog. I explain how Lickety Split is in my name, but she is registered as Amy's service dog. In Australia, if you are under 18, parents or guardians are considered the owner of the dogs even if a registered service dog is serving a minor. When she turns 18, Lickety Split's ownership will be transferred to Amy. The parent gave me a look as if it hit her child. She then snarls at me something along the lines of, "How dare you make an innocent animal work and brainwash it into being able to do nothing more than follow your demand?" I just shrug and tell her that she's entitled to that opinion and ask her to leave as she was upsetting Amy. She then demands I hand the dog over to her, as a dog as spectacular looking as mine should not be forced into slavery. I give a simple, "Nope," and wave her off. She leaves, surprisingly, with her daughter complaining about how she wants a dog that is well behaved enough to sit like Lickety Split is. About half an hour passes and we are packing up to leave. Amy quietly asks if we can throw the ball just a little for Lickety Split because she doesn't feel it's fair for her dog to miss out on the fun, so we head back to the field, remove Lickety Split's lead and vest after checking Leg or her mother weren't around. Side note, her dog tags also say that she, Lickety Split, is a service dog, as well as have my name, address, and phone number on them, and this will be important later. And we begin a small session of fetch with Lickety Split, taking turns throwing the ball as we usually do. Now, the park is set up, so the field is right next to the car park with a row of bushes separating the two, and the area we were standing in had a few trees shading some picnic tables. As Lisa is taking her turn to throw the ball, it hits a tree and bounces through the bushes. Lickety chases after it, and I tell my sister to stay put while I follow just to make sure she doesn't end up on the road. Despite Lisa's throw not being too hard, Lickety Split wasn't directly behind the bushes like I thought she'd be. In fact, I couldn't immediately find her after passing the bushes. I looked around for a moment before hearing Lickety Split's distressed barking and bolt into the car park, finding a family of 5 attempting to wrestle Lickety Split in the back of their car. The family, including Leg, her mother, father, a boy, most likely middle child, and an older girl, appeared to be the oldest. The father was holding Lickety Split's jaw shut while the children were attempting to move her into the trunk of the car. My dog was not making it easy for them, and since the mother seemed to refuse to get close and the father was fighting to keep her head under control, they were struggling quite a bit. I yelled at them to let Lickety Split go, and several things happened in quick succession. The EF lost his grip on Lickety Split's head, while the 2 girls jumped back, leaving Boy holding her hind legs off the ground. Lickety Split barked several times before the EF again tried to hold her muzzle, which she responded to by biting his arm and flinging herself at the boy, snapping at him until she managed to land a bite on his ankle and bolt to my side. I grabbed her collar and yelled several obscenities at the family for attempting to steal my dog. At this time, a security man arrived, explaining how someone had reported an incident and asking what was going on. At this time, Amy and Lisa had also come looking for me, most likely hearing the barking and yelling as well as just wondering why I was taking so long. Amy was on the brink of a panic attack and Lickety strained against my grip to get to Amy, so I let her go, telling Amy and Lisa to quickly put her vest and lead back on. The father is now yelling at the security men at how they found what they had assumed was an abandoned dog that they were planning on taking to a shelter to adopt the poor thing, when I appeared and beat the dog until she was so scared it bit him and his son, and he now demanded the dog be put down immediately. The security man looks over at Lickety Split, who was taking a defensive stance in front of my sisters and snarling at the family before looking at me and asking what my side of what happened was. Thinking this could take a while, I asked him to hold on a moment when I moved my sisters and Lickety Split off the road and into the shade. Amy is having a panic attack at the prospect of her dog being put down and sobbing for me to protect her dog. At this point, I just wanted to get her home, where it was much easier calming her down. So I turned back to the security man and the family and explained the misthrown ball, how I'd come to make sure my dog didn't end up on the road, and how I found the family attempting to steal my sister's service dog when the entitled mother interrupted screeching how, "That's proof he abuses the dog. No dog should be made to work." The security man then pauses before he states his grandma has a guide dog because she's going blind. Pause from the family. Security man turns to the kids and asks if they were trying to move the dog in the car. The older girl confirms this. Security man then asks if they waited to see if anyone claimed the dog. The girl shook her head and the entitled mother then claimed the dog had no tags. I pointed out Lickety Split's beautiful, handmade, bright purple and blue collar, stating it has my phone number and address on it before asking SM if I could take my sisters home. I didn't even care about pressing charges for the attempted dog napping. I just wanted to get Amy home as she was really struggling to calm down. Thankfully, security man understood, took my details and explained this would most likely go to the police as my dog had bitten 2 people. I wasn't too worried about this, as my state's laws says if a dog bites or attacks someone, it would be put down, unless it was provoked to do so. He would make sure to save all security footage as evidence, as he could clearly see I cared for my dog and family. He let me go, but warned me that Lickety Split must be kept in my name, and her residence can't change, or it would have worse legal repercussions. I assured him we weren't going anywhere before ushering my sisters to my car to get home. I left the car park and drove to another at a sports field close by before trying to calm Amy down, going through our normal method of grounding her before giving her cuddles, and talking her down from her panic attack. She's still shaky when I pulled away, but I wanted to get her home where she could lie down and relax, so she just cuddled the toy she had brought and her dog the whole way home while crying softly. Amy normally sits in the back seat with Lickety Split and Lisa no matter where we are going. We ended up ordering from a restaurant, Amy's favorite, for dinner and watching a movie together snuggled up on the pull-out lounge. The girls both fell asleep there and I let them be. This was before Amy was back in school, but I gave the next day off from her tutoring and worked from home since she was still upset. The police did get in contact with me about Lickety Split biting 2 people, but confirmed they had seen the security footage and agreed that the situation had provoked Lickety Split to do so. There was also a whole court procedure where the family was adamant the attack was unprovoked and they were just trying to help what they thought was a stray dog. But one of the cameras had caught a very clear display of Lickety Split's collar, which has my phone number. Not to mention, entitled mother and Leg had seen me and my sister twice that day, which cameras had also caught. The parents were fine and given community service, and since I just wanted it to be over, I didn't press further. But we haven't been back to that park since. I'm so glad your dog was okay and that you weren't seriously injured. It sounds like you were very brave and did everything right. Your sister is lucky to have such a caring big sister looking out for her. Your dog sounds like an absolute legend. You guys must have trained her very well. The family you came across blows my mind. How could someone feel so entitled to the point where they try to kidnap a whole service dog at a public park? I'm glad the security man was so understanding and not stupid enough to believe them over you. Very happy they ended up getting punished for their actions, even if it isn't the most severe punishment. When my parents were thrown out of a child's birthday party because they asked the stupidest thing imaginable. This happened I think when my brother was around 6 to 7 years old. A neighbor boy down the street was having his birthday party, and my brother got invited because they were sort of friends, but probably because they knew my parents would bring a gift, and they did. Don't remember what it was though, nor do I really care. My parents dragged me along to this party, even though I'd rather stayed home and play video games. I was bored and sitting down almost the entire time, so I got to witness pretty much the whole situation. It started when my brother was caught picking up gifts off the table and shaking them. The mother of the birthday boy told him to stop, and my parents tried to defend my brother and say he was harmless. But the lady knew what my brother was really like and had my parents move him away from the presents. There were some games that the kids were playing, don't remember what they were, but I do remember my brother tried to be the center of attention as much as possible. With each game, the birthday boy got his first pick/turn on them, all because it was his birthday. My brother freaked out because he didn't get to be first, and my parents did ask the birthday boy's mother if my brother could get the first pick/turns, and the lady not only refused, but told my parents to get my brother under control or we'd all be asked to leave. Then came time for the cake. The mother lit the candles for the birthday boy and the adults started singing the happy birthday song. They only got as far as singing the birthday boy's name in the song before my brother burst into a tantrum at the table. He grabbed the side of the table and started trying to violently shake it. My parents had to hold my brother back for a moment, and then I saw my mother go up and talk to the mother of the birthday boy again about something, and the poor lady looked positively disgusted. And I learned later that she'd asked her to let my brother blow out the candles first and then they could redo it. The lady told my mother that it would be best if we left, and then they went back to trying to redo the birthday song. Well, my brother couldn't take it and ran to the table and shoved the whole cake right at the birthday boy. I mean, he used his arm to literally clothesline the cake and heave it right into that poor kid's face. The whole room was silent for a few seconds, and then a bunch of the kids started laughing. Then the birthday boy started crying, and the adults were all mortified, except for my parents. My mother just started hugging my brother tightly and acting like a Karen by saying this could have been prevented if they just let my brother blow out the candles first. The mother of the birthday boy was cleaning up chocolate cake off her son and screamed at my parents to get out. The other kids there started crying because it finally hit them now that there was no cake. My mother started dragging my brother out, but he broke free of her and then pushed over the table with all the presents on it. I grabbed him and held him in a headlock till my parents grabbed him. I apologized profusely to the mother of the birthday boy and said I wasn't on my parents' side in the matter. Yeah, that's right. Little 12-year-old me had to apologize for my own parents. My dad yelled at me to get moving or I could walk home. I said I'd walk home. It was literally a quarter-mile down the road. I stayed and helped clean up the mess my brother made. The lady thanked me and said that I was a good egg, but my brother was just rotten. Someone went out and got another cake while the birthday boy had to take a shower because he was covered in cake. All of the mess was cleaned up and they redid the birthday song. After the party was over, the mother of the birthday boy wrote something out on a piece of paper. It was a handwritten invoice to my parents for the destroyed cake, along with a written threat to call police as someone there with a camera caught everything. I handed the invoice to my parents, and they really didn't look happy when they read it. Then they gave me the cash and told me to take it back to the lady. So I did. And that was pretty much it. Neither that kid or his family ever associated with my brother or my parents again. But the messed up thing is that at another birthday party months later, the same thing nearly repeated entirely. My mother asked the parents to let my brother blow out the candles first, gave BS excuses as to why, and they outright refused, and my mother acted like a total Karen. My brother tried to knock down the cake. I was on guard and intercepted him. Then we were told to leave. It was after that my brother was no longer invited to birthday parties that were not relatives. And then on the next birthday in that same year when I turned 13, my parents tried to get me to let my brother blow out the candles, and my aunt tore into them for that. It was then, I guess, that my parents decided that if I couldn't share, then the next year I shouldn't have a party at all. And any previous readers know how that turned out. Damn, I feel really bad for you in this situation. It seems like you're the only sane one left in your family. I get your brother is autistic, but this doesn't mean that he's more special than everyone else. The way your parents treat him will only make him more and more selfish. With the things your mother was asking for, it may as well have been her son's birthday party. Honestly, it's pathetic, and your brother's reactions just make it so embarrassing for you. I hope he does grow up quickly and stop thinking the world revolves around him, and also that your parents learn how to say no to him. If you enjoyed these stories, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell. Check out the other videos on your screen right now. Otherwise, you're definitely the jerk.